Hello, wonderful family. Another glorious day and another beautiful opportunity to share the word with you. Hallelujah. Today, I want us to take a little dive into um, the story of Jesus' disciples, where they had to deal with this man's son who was tormented by a spirit that tear at him. I will be looking at it from two different versions or two different storylines, if I could just permit me to call them storylines, two different accounts, one from Mark's rendition and the other from Matthew's rendition. Then we'll tie it up with something that happened in Matthew. We'll start from Mark chapter 9 from verses 14. I'll be reading from the King James Version for all renditions. Verse 14. And when he came to his disciples, as he here is Jesus, he saw a great multitude about them and the scribes questioning with them. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed, and running to him, saluted him. And he asked the scribes, What question ye with them? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. So he brought his he brought his son that had a dumb spirit to Jesus, thinking Jesus was there for Jesus to help out with the condition. Hallelujah. Verse 18. And wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth, and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. Key phrase there. He brought him, or rather, storyline, this father brought his son to Jesus for healing. Jesus wasn't there. So he approached the disciples and says, Please help me with my son. Cast out these devils. He recognized that there was a devil responsible for this. He says, Please cast him out. And he records here that they could not. How did he know they could not? It means that they tried and couldn't. They tried and couldn't. Verse 19. He answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? In essence, he was saying that everybody there didn't have faith. They didn't have confidence in what God had said. How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. In all likelihood, this was the same thing that happened when this father asked the disciples to cast out this devil. Straightway the spirit teared him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And based on this, these disciples met with, quote unquote, something that stared them in the face called failure, and they succumbed to it. They looked at it that we couldn't deal with this. So much so that the father also perceived and said that these disciples couldn't do this. They could not. When you say someone cannot do something, it means that the person does not have the ability to do it. It also could mean that the person is not empowered to do it. Just follow my line of reasoning. And verse 21, and he asked his father, How long is it ago since this came unto him? And he said, Of a child. And oft times it had cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said unto him, If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. If you can believe what? If you can believe what I'm telling you, all things are possible. So if Jesus tells you anything and you can believe it, it is possible. Now this makes you understand that also this also applies to the disciples. If the disciples can believe, all things are possible to the disciples. If the disciples can believe what Jesus had told them, or what Jesus tells them, all things are possible to the disciples. And this is also applicable to us. If you can believe what Jesus says to you, all things are possible to you. Verse 24, and straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief. When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried and rent him sore and came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said he is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. So Jesus' intervention ended up looking as if this boy was dead. Most likely this same thing had happened with the disciples, and fear had come, and they doubted that they couldn't do this. In fact, they gave the impression that they couldn't do this. Doubt came. You remember Jesus says, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believes. If you can believe what Jesus has told you. Now, stick a pin there. Let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 10 from verse 1. Okay, no. Oh yes, chapter 10 verse 1. I read, and when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, this is Jesus now, he gave them power. Remember I said that if they say you cannot do something, it means you don't have the power to do it. It means you don't have the ability to do it. You're not empowered to do it. So if they say you cannot do this, you do not have the ability to do it. You don't have the power. But listen here now. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power. Jesus gave the disciples power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sicknesses and all manner of diseases. So Jesus had given these disciples in Matthew chapter 10 power. So was this before or after this incident with this boy? Come with me to Matthew chapter 17. Note that they were given power. Jesus gave them power. He said he has given them power. They didn't see the power. It's not as if power was one animate or one finite thing that was visible. He now gave, said, take, this is power. He said, how did he give power? He told them that he has given them power. So he spoke it. They couldn't see it. They had to believe it. Remember, he says, all things are possible to him that believes. So if he has said this to these guys, let's assume he said it to them before they had met this demon-possessed boy. Whatever they saw, like as that thing tore at the boy, and the boy was as one dead, did it nullify their ability or their power? You remember what Jesus did when this boy fell as if he had died? Let me read it to you again. That in Mark's rendition. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. So this is what the disciples should have done. They shouldn't have thought about what they were seeing. This quote and unquote lying vanity that this devil was trying to evoke, was trying to manifest in the physical realm to cause fear to come, for them to doubt that they had power, and for them not just to doubt that even when this father said they couldn't utter a word to counter what this man was saying. Who told you we can't? We can. They didn't say that. They accepted it in defeat. So they didn't believe Jesus. That is assuming that Jesus had given them this power before this incident. Now come with me. This was Matthew chapter 10. Come with it to Matthew chapter 17 from verse 14. And when they were come to the multitude, remember chapter 10, Matthew chapter 10, Jesus gave them power or authority to cast out unclean spirits, inclusive of this devil. Matthew chapter 17 now verse 14. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed, for oft times he falleth into the fire and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Verse 10, he says he gave them power to cure, to cast out, and to cure all manner of disease. So he had told them that he has given them power. Now, 7 chapters later, somebody is asserting that they could not do what Jesus said he had given them power to do. What happened? It's obvious they didn't believe when Jesus said it. Something caused them not to believe. Something in the physical realm made them, they saw something that made them doubt what Jesus had said. You get what I'm saying? Things would happen in the physical realm to cause you to want to doubt what Jesus has said. What has Jesus said to you? When he said what he said to you, it was irrespective of what you see in this natural realm. Verse 15, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed, for oft times he falleth into the fire and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? Listen to the statement Jesus said. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Because of your unbelief. Unbelief of what? What didn't they believe? They didn't believe when he told them that he's giving them power. So that at the slightest provocation, at the slightest semblance that this devil was not obeying them, they gave in. Oh, it means I don't have the power. Mark says Jesus held this guy and lifted him up. I've cast this thing out, so there's no place for this devil still in this boy. This boy is released from this. Jesus says he's giving his disciples power to cast out devils. So no devil should be able to stand in their presence. If it behaves as if it hasn't gone, stretch forth your hand and act as if it is gone and lift this boy up. That's what they were supposed to do. And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have faith, if you have belief in what I say, as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Jesus said, they're saying it again in other words, say all things are possible to him that believes what I say. He had said to them, I have given you power to cast out devils. So in essence, when they didn't believe him, they were actually saying that he was lying to them when he told them that. You get what I'm saying? Now, if Jesus has told you something, the onus is on you to believe what he has said so that you don't make him out to be a liar. Because what he says is the truth. And it must be, if you refuse to accept anything contrary to that, it must turn out as he said. It must. Refuse to accept anything contrary to that. That's what faith is all about. Refusing to accept anything contrary to what God has said. Be it said in the word, be it said in your spirit. And then you will get what he has said. Because it says all things are possible to the one that believes me. God bless you. Hallelujah.